You're listening to Back Pew Convos.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Sal. And this is the podcast God wants you to listen to.
So if you want to remain in God's will, have a sit down.
Grab a beverage of your choice.
And have a listen.
You're welcome.
And we're off.
No test? No test this time? We're just going?
No tests.
No testes?
Tests. We're just gonna go for it. Go for it.
And action. What's the beverage of choice today? Canadian Dry. Zero sugar.
It's a Canada.
Canadian, man.
Dry.
Well, I tried to go into a Canadian accent and went Jamaican for some reason. Just the literal
very
opposite.
It is a zero sugar ginger ale. Cranberry ginger ale, zero sugar for the holidays and whatnot,
Right on. Mine's just water with some sort of Walmart flavor packet thing in it.
Yeah.
It's supposed to taste like peach rings, the candy.
Does it?
It's peachy-ish. About like what you would expect powder from a little tube to taste like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably filled with all sorts of dyes and carcinogens, but...
Possibly.
But what are you going to do, man? I mean...
What are you going to do? What can you do?
Let me tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep drinking my little tube drinks.
Yeah.
With the red dye 60s or whatever, and the blue 18s or whatever they are.
Yellow 74.
Yeah. I mean, something's going to get you, right? If you don't drink those, you can't drink beer because it's going to kill your liver. You can't drink tap water because of who God knows why. You can't, what are you going to do? Just going to shrivel up and die, I guess? No, I'm just going to do whatever. I mean,
the rhythm is going to get you.
The rhythm.
So they say. Somebody says. Somebody at one time said.
As the legend goes.
It's pretty funny. That reminded me that in the book of Hebrews, that's like literally what he says. Like, he doesn't even bother trying to figure out like where the quote came from. Just as someone somewhere said. Do you remember that?
Look it up, bro. Just look it up for yourself.
I can't remember what verse that's in, but it was somewhere in Hebrews it says that. It's like someone somewhere said.
I assumed that the book of Hebrews was going to come up today.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah, I figured probably would at some point.
It's a pretty solid one, The funny thing is...
Yeah.
Somebody said something the other day. I don't even remember where it was. I'm pretty sure it was at church.
Yeah.
They said something about one of the Timothys because that's what you guys were doing in your study or whatever.
Yeah.
And it made like it wasn't a serious comment. It was just like, yeah, it's a good book, And me and Kelly were sitting back there, and I was like, yeah, it's probably like my least favorite, all of them actually. And then today I actually saw another, it was just a short little funny TikTok, but it was somebody who's like an actual biblical scholar, has degrees and all that, and they were just ranking their favorite, in order of how they prefer books of the Bible, But I think ranking-wise, Hebrews is a pretty solid one.
Yeah. I do, so far, it's been a while, actually, since I've read the Timothys, before we started doing them for the... Timothy, for the Bible study. But I do enjoy 2 Tim more than 1st so far.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
There's the final verdict, guys. 2 Tim's better than 1 Tim.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here. Probably not 1st.
I mean, if you're trying to pick your bottom feeder, what's literally the worst book of the Bible for you? That's actually a pretty tough discussion.
Yeah, maybe we should do that as a topic sometime.
It's a pretty interesting topic. Because my initial reaction is maybe First Timothy. It's hard not to pick some of the Old Testament ones just for the simple fact of the length and the boringness. Like the Numbers and the First Chronicles, like it's just Leviticus, where we're going through all the you can't do this, and if you do this, then you got to do this. Come on.
Yeah.
Sure.
The layout of the tabernacle and all the stuff.
Right. And that's not to make light of the sacredness of these passages or whatever. If you're somebody that holds them to be sacred, like it has literally nothing to do with the value of the text. It's just the simple fact if you're going to sit down and read something.
Right.
It's hard to stay engaged with 40 chapters of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there maybe are other ones that I would rank lower than First Tim, but I had some pretty rough struggles with First Tim, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, my first initial thought was, because I've mentioned it on the show a few times, is Revelation, right? But actually, I think the more that I've read Revelation and studied it, the more I've really opened up to it a whole lot.
Yeah, it's actually become maybe one of my more... It's not my favorite. But like it's higher up the list than it used to be for sure.
Well, I think more of my, not really, I don't want to use the word disdain because that's not true, but sort of my struggles with it isn't so much that I've struggled with it personally, but how much it's been misused. And that part alone sort of has jaded me on it, you know?
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. There's there are some actually really good parts of First Timothy, but there's just some that I don't care for.
Big Ecclesiastes guys, personally, you know.
YOLO.
Yeah, but what else is there but eat, drink, and be merry? That's all you can do in life, man.
I suppose.
That's the vibe it gives off. So
yeah, it's actually kind of a depressing vibe, I think, though.
I don't know. Could be. Maybe.
He seems to have a pretty bleak outlook.
I guess it's all about the way you frame it, you know?
He's like, there's no reward. There's no punishment. You're all gonna die.
See, it's just about the tone you read it in. Because you can read it as like, hey, man, there's no reward. There's no punishment. Guess what? In the end, we're all just going to die. So just eat, drink, and be merry. And that sounds way better than the way you just said it.
Yeah. My internal monologue said it much more aggressive and more
pessimistic.
Yes, pessimistic is probably the word.
Well, now look who's being the pessimist. Usually that's my role to play.
That's a weird word.
Pessimist. You're a pessimist. Pessimistic. I put the mystic and pessimistic.
Put the piss. Yeah. Well, Frank and Beans, what are we talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about faith. Because I gotta have faith. Do, 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 do. Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody's got a body like you. So I gotta think twice.
That's great. What? No. I mean, I don't know how many more words you know to it, but that was plenty.
I can go, man. I can go.
That's just fine.
Yeah, we're going to talk about faith and, or maybe also hope.
Hope.
I actually suggested the two together simply because I feel like they go hand in hand.
Faith, hope, and love.
1 Corinthians 8.
Yeesh.
But yeah, I think that they do go kind of hand in hand. Not just with 1 Corinthians, but if you're going Bible verses, even the Hebrews, 11:1, faith and hope kind of tie in together there. And ultimately, when I was thinking about topics, me and you were talking about doing a topic, and I was like, I think we just need a little more hope. Sometimes it's easy, especially for people like me, to get a little pessimistic. And I'm not naturally someone who would be described as full of hope and faith, just by my nature. And so it's something that I have to, perhaps, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but perhaps it's something that I have to cultivate, work at. So I thought it would be a good opportunity, to look into it, to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
When it's sort of the state of the world that we live in, it's easy to get caught up in the negativity of it all and to feel hopeless, which leads to feeling even faithless, I would say, which is why I say that the two go hand in hand. So yeah. That was where that's where the topic came from, essentially. At the day that we were talking about topics, that was what I was feeling. I was just like, you know what? We need a little more hope.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
So, there you go. Faith. Do you have it?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think everybody does, actually.
I don't even remember. Obviously, I've got because I asked you a bunch of questions today that we were going to use to sort of frame the conversation, but I don't remember what I said to you in the very, very beginning, like days ago when we decided to talk about this. As far as like which way we were going to go about it.
Well,
Jace. So yeah, I just said, like, what does faith and also hope mean to you? What is your faith and hope in? Why not? Why are they important? These are all questions that I asked. So yeah, all right, let's just dive into them. I mean, before we dive into the questions, I guess the initial, I sort of gave my initial thoughts on it, that like why I wanted to talk about it. But do you have any sort of initial, before we get into the questions, do you have any sort of initial thoughts or comments on faith or hope that we need to discuss before we hop into the questions that we had written here?
I don't really think so. Other than kind of just echoing what you said, I think that we, no matter who you are, I feel like it seems to me that faith and hope are needed now more than ever. At least it seems that way. That's a lot easier to say whenever you're in your particular cultural moment.
Right.
But yeah, more than ever, I don't know if that's right or not.
Right.
But it definitely feels like it is needed now. It's always needed, though. Right?
Yeah. Perhaps that's something that we shall dive into and explore. Okay. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I think so. But it's worth talking about at least. So, but I guess we can just jump in there, because I kind of sent these questions to you in reverse order, as I'll start. But since this just kind of flows from what you just said there, the first question that I had kind of posed out here is, why is having faith or hope a good thing? Or is it a good thing? Which I would say, based on what you just said, yes, you would classify faith and hope as a good thing. But the question is, why?
I got confused because I thought you said you were starting at the bottom of the list.
Oh, I just meant the second set of questions.
Oh, okay. Why is having faith or hope a good thing? I think so. My initial thought is going to be probably a dissatisfying one, but I'm not going to worry about how much what I say is satisfying to folks.
You're used to being unsatisfying, so.
Oh, burn! To some folks, I suppose. Probably to most folks, because I usually just make everybody mad.
Well, there you go.
Because I don't know. It's going to get us sidetracked down a whole rabbit hole. But yeah. Sometimes, no, never mind. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. I tend to, in one sense, you're right. The things that I say tend to not satisfy anybody. But anyway.
I didn't mean it. I was just making a joke.
Well, it's kind of real talk, though.
Well, the joke didn't come from any real place, in my opinion. I was just making a joke. But anyway.
Well, I say that because, like, we have our disagreements, but then, like, folks might hear what you say and think that I'm saying what you're saying. And then even when folks hear what I'm saying and they think they know what I'm saying, even if they think that we are genuinely disagreeing, they think that they know what I'm saying and I'm not saying the thing that they think that I'm saying. And so it seems as though a lot of folks probably just, no matter who you are, you tend to not care for my takes on stuff. But at least that's how I feel sometimes.
Well, we probably all feel like that, I would say.
Yeah.
At times, but
Anywhoozin. Why is it a good thing?
Or is it? Is it a good thing? And if so, why?
Yes, I think that it is a good thing.
Okay.
I think that it is a good thing because I think that it is a thing that is a gift from God. I think God gives it to us, and therefore it is a good thing.
Because God only gives good gifts.
Mm-hmm.
As the words say.
Yeah. He ain't gonna give you a stone if you're asking for bread.
True. I mean, I do think that there are, and where I think that this question gets a little bit interesting for me is because I think that there are some different definitions that can be used for, or different types of faith, right? Like there is a sort of a blind faith where you just believe in things. I mean, I guess I'm trying to communicate the most effective way I can. I think that there's a such thing as like a blind faith, right? Which is just believing in things that I don't think are based in any sort of reality. You just believe them just because that's what you, for whatever reason you believe them, but you do. I don't know why people believe what they believe, but a blind faith. And then there's a faith that's more experiential, I think, where it's like a trust. Where, like, what I'm thinking of with that is, like, I know that in the Buddhist tradition, right? So faith isn't super essential because Buddhism is more of a, at least the way I've learned it, is more of a philosophical way of living your life than it is a theological system, right? It's not concerned with the study of God per se. So you wouldn't think that faith has a role in the Buddhist tradition, but what I found is that it actually does. The word for it, I'm probably going to destroy the word, but it's saddha. It's Saddha with a little thing over the A to make it saddha. But anyway, and but its role isn't like it's not believing in things not seen, right? It's actually the opposite of that. So the saddha role is come and see, essentially, which is biblical, so the come and see, and what I mean by that is it's a trust in the process based on your own experiences of the process, right? So it's which in Buddhism it's the eightfold path, right? You follow the eightfold path, it yields fruit, you see the fruit, and then that builds your trust in the path, which is the saddha, or faith in the path, right? And so I think that is a kind of faith more so than believing in things not seen. It's actually seeing the fruit and then that building your trust in it or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that there are different kinds of faith. But maybe I'm not. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there are different kinds of faith? Or is there just faith?
I think there's actually just faith. That's my initial thoughts on it. Is that there's just faith. Because, like, even whenever you describe blind faith, I don't know that anyone just like actually truly believes anything that they just for kicks, you know? I think that actual genuine faith is experiential for sure. I think the way that I would maybe frame it a little differently is that to me, I don't see it doesn't seem to be faith if it's followed by um fruit or evidence rather than like I guess I see faith more as like something that is both a gift given and something that is cultivated. Something that it's both. It's not actually all the questions that you asked me, like is it this or that? You probably should have just assumed that I would answer both to all of them.
I mean,
because that's
I generally do, but that
because
they're conversation starters, though.
yeah, because yeah, that's how I view that. I don't see it as like either or, but I think it is a gift that is given to you, but I think it does have to be cultivated. But I also think that it's a moving process. It's not just like a static thing that exists. It's something that does move with you in your experience. But I think that even if we don't realize it, I think actually what faith precedes the evidence. And when I say evidence, I mean like what you were referring to with like the fruit.
Yeah.
I think whether we realize it or not, I think genuine faith actually has to precede that, not be the result of it. Otherwise, I don't think that's actually faith. I think that's just like, well, I did this thing and it worked, so now I know it works.
That's Sattha.
What?
Sattha.
Yeah, I mean, I know what that, but like what?
Yeah, you said it's not faith. I said, well, it's Sattha.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. See, because I think I would still classify that as faith, at least for me, because like you think like, I'm trying to think of a good example that's not like super absurd. But I'm thinking about like if you do something repeatedly, you have faith that the next time you do this thing, it's going to work out exactly the same way because you've seen it happen time and time again, right? Like when I go to my truck, and I turn the key, I have faith that the motor's going to turn over and it's going to start because that's what it does every time I do that, right? So like, I have faith that it's going to do what it's supposed to do, right? Because I've seen it work time and time again. So like, I don't know for sure that this time I turn the key, it's going to work, but I do have faith it's going to because that's what it's supposed to do and it always does it. You know what I mean? So I do think it is. I think it's still faith. Perhaps. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't. To me, it is and it isn't. I
Yeah.
guess for me, like I see what you're saying. Like it depends on whether we mean like we even use the language of like trustworthy. Like I've got a trustworthy vehicle. My
Yeah.
you know, like to use that in the same analogy that you're using
Right.
with the car starting. Like you can talk about your cars being trustworthy, and like that means that, like you can trust that you get up in the morning and start it. It's going to start up.
Right.
But like, I don't know that to me is the same as. I guess the point that I'm trying to make, or like the thing I'm quibbling with a little bit, is the order of the things.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it's. As you were talking about this, I was kind of internally smiling a little bit because this is literally what I meant when I said to you, I texted you the other day and I said, what I've learned in my short little study on faith is that I think more like a Buddhist and you think like a Christian. And this is literally what I was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think, though, that there's a decent amount of overlap.
Oh, I think so, too.
Like, I don't think that it's like they're opposites. Like, I think you said earlier you think that they're opposites. I don't know that I think that they're opposites.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
But, I mean, I looked a little bit into it after you said that on chat, and there actually seems to be quite a bit of overlap between, like, particularly like the Eastern Church Fathers.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the funny things about trying to, because when I said that to you, I was kind of joking because it's like anything in the Bible or Christianity, and I don't know enough about Buddhism to like say the same, but I would assume it's the same in their traditions as well. Is that just even saying the Christian idea of faith is, well, what does that mean? Right? Because I think that when I do a contrast of the Buddhist saddha to Christian faith, what I'm actually contrasting is the Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the evidence of things hoped for, or the faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So it's literally like you have faith in something that you don't see. There's no evidence for it, which is the opposite of Buddhist saddha. To me, that's the opposite. But then there are conceptions of faith in Christianity, which I think are more in line, perhaps, with what we see in the Gospels in Jesus's life, which is that come and see attitude, which I think is exactly the same thing, right? I mean, our church even printed T-shirts that say "come and see" on them because the fruit's there. Come and see the fruit, right? Like,
yeah, it takes a step. It takes an initial step to even do that, though. To come and see requires you to come,
right,
so that you see. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to name, I think, is that even in that, there is an initial movement that I'm calling faith that precedes the seeing.
Yes. Okay. Understand. I mean, I agree. I don't know if I would necessarily label that initial step faith, but I think sometimes it may be. I don't know I can't say for sure what is everybody's driving force, but,
Well, I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, perhaps.
I mean, I would call it faith because I actually, like I said, I think that faith is a gift that is given to everyone, and I think it's something that's uncovered, perhaps more so than like something that you don't have and then you are given it.
Right.
It's more like a treasure hidden in the field, right?
It's always been there. You just have to dig it out.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, it has to be uncovered.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how I view that. And I think that, but as far as like what brings about the uncovering, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So you've said it a couple of times now that you think that faith is a gift. What does that mean to you? Like when you say that, what do you mean?
I mean, I think that faith is something that is, it's not something. I think that, well, I mean, for one, it's the language of Scripture about like each one has been given a measure of faith. You know, everyone's been given a measure of faith, but also I think that it's what do I mean by gift? I mean, I think that it's a gift in the sense that it is a given in every human being. Like it is something that we are created with. That, and it's something that has to be uncovered and cultivated through experience, but it is something that is inherent to us all.
But when you say it's a gift, do you mean to imply like that some people are like, because using the language that you did, right? Like to each is given a measure of faith. Does that mean to you that like some people are just given more faith than others as a gift? Like that some people are going to be more faithful, or?
No, I think that everyone is given the exact same measurement of faith. I think it is because I think that the gift giver is a generous giver, right? I think that God's not withholding from some people and giving more to others, and
right.
I think that He is generous to all and gives to all without measure. Actually, even though everyone's been given a measure, I think that everyone has been given this gift of faith.
You've been given a measure, and guess what that measure is? Infinity.
It is immeasurable. But that's actually like that's like for real what I think it is.
Yeah,
and that's,
I mean, I wasn't asking it in any sort of judgmental way. I'm literally just trying to ask you the questions to like cultivate the conversation and just dig into what you're, where you're at with it. But I'm not making a judgment one way or another. I don't.
Yeah, I was just saying like I mean, to me, I think that's more often than not, that's how Scripture is trying to communicate those things to us. Like it says a measure, but that measure is immeasurable.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's right. But so that's what I think it is. I think it's a gift in so far as it's given to all of us, and he's not giving more to one and less to another. And there are, as far as like how it comes about that it's uncovered for some and not others or whatever, or maybe it's uncovered for, I guess there's a question there as far as like, does everybody have faith or just putting it in different places kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know as far as, I don't think it's something, because even a gift given has to be opened to be used, right? Like if someone gives you a gift, then if you never open it up or if you never put it to use, then it's not doing you any good.
As the Steve Carell character in the 40-Year-Old Virgin said, "Is it true if you don't use it, you lose it?"
Right. Yeah.
So you said that you think that faith and hope are good.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any negative aspects to either? Or can there be?
I mean, I think there can be, but it goes back to, we kind of had a little bit of this discussion a while back. Like, I don't know if that's genuine hope or genuine faith. Those negative versions of it or whatever. Like we've talked about, I think it was in the context of like eschatology. Like if Christ comes back and is going to set all things to right, then why worry about what's going on right now?
Right.
And so, like, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that's really where the question comes from for me, is wrestling with the I mean, not necessarily we don't necessarily have to get as granular as that specific example, even though it's a perfect example. But it's really just how do we stay, because to have faith or hope, we're talking about hope now. To have hope really is kind of looking to the future. It's looking to how things play out. Like I have hope that even though we're not there yet, we will get there, or that things will work out a certain way. So it's the looking towards the future. So how do you look towards the future while staying grounded in the present and being present? You know what I mean? And without losing grasp on the present, without always projecting forward to that hope in the future. And that really is where the question comes from for me, is because I wrestle with that tension. On one hand, I see I think that hope is a good thing. We've talked about it a little bit with my feelings on that, with some of the healing talk that we've done and stuff like that, about like I think it's good for people to have hope and to have faith. Like I think that there's actually documented scientific studies that show that sort of having a more hopeful, positive outlook on things, having a faith that things will work out for the better, does yield positive benefits. And so I recognize that, while also feeling the tension of not wanting to constantly always be projecting forward into looking forward. Like I've heard people talk about in churches before about like, I just can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait for Jesus to come back. And all the while, I'm thinking like, I really like life now, like,
yeah,
wrestling with that tension of looking forward while not just wishing your life away,
Yeah. I do think it can be used in a negative sense in that way. Like if you just hate your life,
right?
That's a pretty sad thing, and that's why I don't think it's a genuine hope. Because I think genuine hope for the return of Christ shouldn't be a self-centered thing. Because why would it be? Following Christ is not a self-centered thing generally.
Right.
So why would hope in his return be that? That's why for me, it's not that I don't long for the return of Christ because I hate my life, but I realize that there are people in this world that are experiencing hell on earth right now. And, my heart's desire is to see justice be brought to those who've experienced injustice. My desire is to see everything and everyone that's broken be healed, restored. It's for all things to be made new, right? That's my hope. That is what I am longing for. And it's not a selfish thing based on my own, like, I just feel like I have a crappy life and I'm ready to end it. It can, like, there's certain ways in which it can be talked about like that.
Right. Well, I think it's even kind of natural, even if you don't, if you got a pretty good life, like, I don't think you have to take it to the point of saying, I hate my life, but like, if you literally believe that paradise awaits, why would you not, like, well, I'm ready to go, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, it almost is sort of but to your point, I mean, it is very self-centered way of looking at it, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think of it as like it's like well, now I'm questioning whether that's an actual thing or not. Like, we say, like, in light of this, like, I'm doing this in light of that. Like, I mean, if you just think about even that term, to live now in light of the future, that hope, to live now in light of that hope, is to say, like, literally that the light that you live in right now is a projection of the light of the future that lightens up right here and right now.
Right. I think that's the key, really. That's a good way of putting it, because for me, the way that I would view my hope for the future is, like, I think it's okay. I have a hope for the future, and I think it's okay to look forward in hopeful expectation for the future, but I do so with the recognition that if we don't do the work now, that future is not going to come to pass. You know what I mean? Like, we have to work to get there. And I mean, it's fine if you want to hold to the ultimate, like, well, one day we're going to get there. That's fine, but we're not going to until we get it together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if you think the expectation is it's going to happen eventually, it's inevitable. Okay, but that's fine. But, like, we've got to work to get there, at least in my worldview, in my system, the way that I do it. So
right.
I think that it's okay to look forward and with hopeful expectation, but it has to be grounded in the now. It has to be grounded in the reality that, like, we have to, like, that is the end goal, but you have to you have to run the first mile before you can run mile 26, right? You can anticipate how good it's going to feel when you finish the marathon at mile 26, but you got to run the first 25 miles before you get to mile 26. And, like, I know that right now we're on mile 1 or mile 2, you know what I mean? So
I've run the race.
Yeah.
I've fought the fight.
So I think it's okay to look forward to the finish line, but you've got to know that I've got to take all the steps between now and the finish line to get there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think for me, that's the only way to stay grounded with it. But I think that the reason why we have to talk about that is because it is a thing, right? It is a thing of, like, you gave the eschatology example, and that's a thing. Like, I've heard that my whole life of, like, it is a thing as far as, like, taking care of the environment. Well, like, who cares? It's going to be destroyed anyway. Like, that's coming back. Or, doing all this things like that, like taking care of the planet, where it's like, who cares? Ultimately, it's all for nothing. You know what I mean? And, like, I just don't think that to me, at least in my system, that's not how it works. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's a very specific view of eschatology, though. It's a pretty narrow one.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, but it's the one that I am familiar with, It's one that,
because there's plenty of eschatological views that would say that, like, we're still going to use this place.
Right.
Whenever Jesus returns.
Right.
So, like, why wouldn't we take care of it now? We're still going to use it. So,
right.
So it's a very specific, like, the earth is, like, destroyed, I guess, or like there's just no, like, we're just going to be floating in outer space with Jesus, I guess, for eternity. Like,
you're gonna have to ask those people, bro. I don't know.
Like, I don't know how that works, but
yeah, yeah. I guess I think that the point being, though, for me, is that I've already said it, right? But it's okay to look forward to the future, but you've got to acknowledge that. And for me, the language that I would use for it is that the future is a hopeful expectation, but it doesn't exist yet, at least, and I'm not even trying to get in the metaphysics of time. I'm just saying, like, as far as our consciousness is concerned, we exist in this present moment, and this is the only, the past has already occurred, the future has yet to occur. The only actual moment that we are alive and breathing in is this present moment. And so, in order to get to that hopeful expectation, I've got to live in this present moment. That's, like I said, that's the way that I would frame it from my point of view.
Yeah, for me, I don't know how we live in the present moment without having some view to the future, though.
Well, I'm not arguing with it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a view to the future. I'm saying you shouldn't just have a view of the future while losing sight of the present moment, because this is the moment that matters.
Right. Yeah. Because, like, I think I said this in one of our previous episodes. I don't remember which one. But the freedom to live and act here and now, I think for me, what frees me up to do that is that trust and that security that I have that in the end it is going to be all right. Like, that doesn't give me an excuse to not act.
Right.
It gives me freedom to act because I can relax and trust that, like, all I can do is what I can do right now.
Right.
Like, but like, I don't want it to be like what you were saying earlier, like, it's not going to get done unless we do it. Well, maybe. I actually don't know that I believe that, but I do know that, like, having that view of the future, that it is going to get done whether we do it or not,
right,
gives me the freedom to act now, to, like, to live the kingdom ethic right now, to live as if the kingdom is already here
right
now.
Yeah, and that's why I tried to word that when I did. I was pretty, tried to be clear about saying, like, this is just the way I frame it, because I know that that's not necessarily the way that you see it, as far as, but that's the way that it works for me, so. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, actually. I think we were just framing it from sort of a different perspective, but it's the same. I think we're saying that ultimately the same thing, right? Like, it's maybe slightly different paradigms on it, but, looking for the future while living it in the present, right? Acknowledging that this present moment is the one that I can act in, right?
Right.
This is, that helps to bring about the future, whether you think it's eventually going to get done or not.
Right. Well, going back to that analogy of the light, right? Like, the only reason you're able to see, to act and move right now, to see what you need to do and act and move right now, is because there is a light ahead. There is that light of the future shining into the now that gives you the sight to see, oh, I need to move and do this here and act here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, it's almost like a foresight, right? You can sort of see how things can work out in the future that helps you to take an action in the here and now to work towards that future. Maybe is a way to say it.
Yeah. Right.
Embody
the kingdom.
Right.
Here and now.
So now the next question,
mm-hmm.
It gets a little more specific to you, a little less broad.
Okay.
I mean, not necessarily you, like for both of us, but this is a little more The previous questions have been just about faith in general. Now I'm asking about you and your faith,
Okay.
and then you can turn it back on me too. But the third question was, what do you have faith and hope in? Why and where does it come from? Which you kind of already answered that one. But the first part of it was, what do you have faith and hope in, and why?
Ultimately, I have hope and faith in God, in God's character, His nature, in the fact that God is good. God is the good, the beautiful, the true, and that those things are the transcendentals, right? The good, the beautiful, the true. That is who God is. That is what God is, and those things will stand for eternity. And that is what my faith and my hope is in. But to add to that, I think my faith is in the person of Jesus. It's in the fact that he lived a life like us, and um, that he is the embodiment of God in flesh, that everything that he does in his life is for us and for our good. My hope and my faith is that the life of Christ, like in Colossians, it says that your life is hidden with God in Christ. And that when Christ appears, your life, whenever Christ appears, who is your life, then you will appear as well. Like my hope and my faith is that his testimony is my inheritance. That his prayer that we would be one as he and the Father are one, like that he has accomplished that. And that my faith and my hope is that even though I don't always see that now, I know that that's the truth. That is the ultimate end of my, like the ultimate goal of my existence is union with God through Christ. That's what my faith and my hope is in the person of Jesus, the character of God as revealed in Jesus, and the promise that all shall be well. I don't have any more details about. I mean, I could speculate about what all that looks like, but
right. Well, I think that's actually more than I would expect out of you. Actually, as far as the what it is now, the why. Why do you have faith in all that?
Why?
Which ultimately, I think a lot of what you said could just be boiled down to like, I don't know. I don't want to boil it down because you said it so well, actually.
Oh. I know I'm snotty and my nose is running a lot. And we still have not brought Kleenexes down here.
It is the time of season. November the 13th, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Why is my faith in those things that I just said?
Yeah, I think when I asked the why, I was thinking more about the why than the hope, or about the faith than the hope. Like, I think the hope is an easy one. Like, why do I hope for good things to happen? Well, because I don't hope for bad things to happen. You know what I mean? But why do you have faith in those things? Because faith is, regardless of how you define faith, faith is a sort of confidence or trust, right? Like, that's ultimately what faith is. I have a confidence that these things, all those things that you just said, the character of God, the things that you said about Jesus, that he displays the character of God, that he lived our life, that he's, that you will be one with God as he, like, what is it why do you think it is that you have faith in those things?
I think it's a lot of reasons, but I think that the the thing that I've been kind of just it seems like it's just been becoming more and more obvious to me recently, and like for a while now, ever since my reconstruction, right? I think it's just become more and more obvious to me that like this just is who I am. This is who I've always been, and I just didn't realize it until I realized it. Kind of like that's kind of where all the faith stuff I was talking about earlier comes into play. Like I had I've had experiences that have uncovered that faith that was always there. The me that's always been there is the one that was, you know, what's the word? I can't remember now. I can't remember the scripture, but um, we were created in Christ before the foundations of the world. Like the me that has always existed from before the foundations of the world, the one that was whose life is hidden in Christ. That is me. That is the real me. That is who I actually am, and that is something that I've only come to see through experience first, initially, and then through learning this tradition, honestly, through the scriptures and through learning more about this tradition and learning more about um, the church fathers and all the stuff that's I've found to be really beautiful about the church and its history, all the liturgy and all the there's just it's like a constant like a never-ending process of just like uncovering what's always been there, but is coming to light now for me. And so but yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before. I think that my initial reconstruction happened from an actual experience, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I wrote the question out, I didn't really write any of these questions out trying to think, like, anticipate what you were going to answer with, because I was just going to let that be the conversation. And especially for this question itself, I had to think, well, and I still don't really know. I mean, how I would answer the question. So I had to spend more time thinking about how I would answer than trying to project onto you what I thought you were going to answer with. You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, even though I know as much, and we have these conversations every week, I would not have guessed that your first answer would have been experiences. But then now that you've said it, it makes total sense. Like, I know that about you. I don't know why. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I knew that you were going to mention the scriptures and sort of the traditional stuff, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I didn't think about the experience part.
Yeah, it was that initial experience that I had at work years ago that was kind of I don't know how to word that, but like an initial uncovering of my faith that was hidden.
Yeah.
It was an experience. It was some sort of experience that it, I really can't explain it. I don't know how to put it into words really well. But it was an experience that essentially gifted me faith in a sense.
I mean, I think that if you had a life-changing, faith-changing experience and you could put it into words, I would probably not believe it to be true. Just saying.
Yeah.
I think that those kind of experiences are probably things that are just pretty well impossible to explain.
Yeah. And that was just the initial phase, though. Like I was saying earlier, like I think it is a continual process of growing in faith or not even growing in faith. I don't know that your faith can shrink and grow in that sense. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a thing that is just there and requires uncovering. And you do that little by little. Here a little, there a little.
Line by line, precept by precept.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. That solves that.
Do you have a response for that one?
I don't really know. What do I have faith in? I mean, really, in a sense, my faith is the reason why this question is hard for me is because, right, the whole reason why I introduced the topic to begin with is because I don't think I'm someone who's generally like super faithful. I'm faithful as a friend, but not like full of faith always, right? So I sort of sometimes I feel like my faith is lacking in that not that I'm hopeless, but I'm also not hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, I think that hope. I like to call it being grounded in reality, being a realist. But I think some could look at it as pessimistic or not as hopeful. You know what I mean? And so, the question is actually a pretty hard one for me. I do find that, especially because just to get a little bit theological with it and some of the stuff, if we've already talked about it a lot, right? But I have lost faith in some of the metaphysical things that I had once had faith in or believed in. Maybe that's not the term, the way that you would describe faith. You would probably phrase it a little bit differently, but I no longer believe in the things that I once did. But it's not that I don't have faith at all. And I think that's why that the Buddhist sadha really stuck with me, is because that was I didn't know that about Buddhism until I was looking this up for this episode. But that's actually the kind of faith that I have towards my own spiritual walk, which is like, I believe in the way of Jesus, which I would just, if I was going to boil it down and reduce it down, I would say it's the way of love, right? So agape, of self-sacrificial love. Like, I believe that, and I have faith, I would call it faith. I have faith that way of living life leads to sozo, wholeness, everlasting life, whatever terminology you would like to use, life and life more abundantly. I believe that the path of Jesus leads to that, which is the way of self-sacrificial enemy love, agape love, love for the other. And that ultimately, like, if I was going to simplify it and reduce it down, that's what I have faith in, is that path, that way of living leads to a fulfilled sozo wholeness. And why I have faith in that, again, goes back to the whole sattva thing, which is, like, I've seen the evidence of it. Like, I've lived life for myself to satisfy my own desires and my own cravings and my own attachments. And I've seen others do the same. I've seen the people in real life that have had everything that the flesh could ever desire: money, sex, drugs, rock and roll, literally it all. And none of that leads to wholeness. The only thing I've witnessed that brings that wholeness and that fulfillment is the way of agape love. And because of that, because I've witnessed it, it's experiential, just like you said, because I've experienced it and I've witnessed it in others, I have faith in the path. I have faith in the way. And so that's the path that I try to live my life off of. That's the model of living. I think that that's the way of Jesus. It's why even though I have lost faith, quote unquote, in some of those metaphysical claims of organized Christianity, I still consider myself a Christian and a follower of Christ, because I believe in the path that he set forward. And that's what I have faith in, that's why I have faith in it. And it leads to hope, but it is a measured hope, because I don't know that I have the kind of hope that you do necessarily, maybe, which is like, you're pretty, and this is why it's so hard to talk about faith and hope, and it's so easy to get the two mixed up, because I think that you have a really good faith, or I don't know that good's the right terminology, but a really strong faith towards your hope, right, of a fulfilled future, kind of like what you laid out a while ago, where you said, I said, if we don't work towards it, it's not going to happen. And you were like, well, I don't think I really believe in that. You know what I mean? And you have that sort of solidified, like, no matter what, this is going to work out in the end. And I don't know that I have faith in that or hope in that anymore. Like, I want to hope that, but I don't think unless we follow the path, unless we start to live for others, I don't know that we're ever going to get there. And I just don't know that I have that kind of hope anymore, or that faith in that hope, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not something that I go back and forth on that, but I mean, you wouldn't probably frame it this way. The way I frame it in terms of like different like eschatological views, like a postmillennialism,
Right.
is more of the kind of like what you're laying out. It's establishing the kingdom on earth through, you know, um, well, there's the Christian nationalist way, but then there's like the just believing that the Great Commission is going to be successful.
Right.
You know, that like what it means to make disciples of all nations or whatever like that is actually going to come to fruition, and through us, through our living the way of Jesus, through being the embodiments of the goodness of God here and now to those around us, like that is going to actually work and create the sort of like heaven on earth, like kingdom on earth. Like that is one way to view that. And then Jesus comes back would be the postmillennial view.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I have enough faith in humanity to think that we can actually do that on our own.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm really getting at when I say, like, I don't know that I really have that faith in that like that's my hope, I guess I would say. Like, I do hope for it, but do I really believe that we're ever going to get there? I don't know. You know, that's something I struggle with. And just trying to be honest about it and raw about it, you know, like I want to believe that. And in a sense, I do. Like, I was thinking about it from the terms of that Hebrews 11:1, right? Like, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Like, I do hope towards that end. I hope that we get there. And maybe that does cultivate faith. Maybe I barely have it like a mustard seed, but maybe it is in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would be hard for me to think that. To me, that would really distort my vision of who God is if God is like the one who created everything. I guess it depends on whether you view God as creator or not. Like what your conception of God is in that sense. But like
Right.
if you believe that God is the creator of all things and all things don't end up being good and working out in the end, then it kind of puts a damper on your view of God, I think. At least it would for me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am trying to hold my definitions of God loosely these days, you know. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Necessarily. So yeah, but anyway, that's what do I have faith in and why? That's, I guess, the best answer I could come up with.
Right.
So
What was our next one?
I don't know, because I got stupid spam calls me. They keep calling me all day, every day. How do you balance faith and hope? We kind of already have talked about this, but how do you balance faith and hope with your lived experience and reality? In other words, how do we stay grounded in reality while maintaining faith and hope? Or do we, and should we? And so, like, what I was thinking of was like how things look pretty bleak sometimes right now. It's very hard to lose sight of that faith and hope and just get downcast about the situation that we're in. And kind of like what I was describing my faith as earlier, it's easy to look around at the world and say, no, we're not even headed in the right direction towards that fulfillment. We're going the opposite direction from it. Like, so how do we acknowledge our lived reality and yet keep our eye in the future, in the hope that we have for the future, without losing our hope, without becoming hopeless?
I think the only way I think the way to become hopeless is to not have that hope of the future. Like I don't know that. To me, that's not losing touch with reality. I would see that more as actually being in touch with reality, more concretely in touch with reality, even. Because to me, I do have that hope that, like, as bad as it looks like things are right now, because I believe that there is a seed of the Logos in everything. There is a seed of goodness. There is a seed in everything and everyone that is intended to grow and mature and, flourish. I can't, because I really do believe that, I can't help but be hopeful, even in the midst of what certainly I agree appears to be a dark time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult thing for someone like me, I would say, because I'm pretty sensitive to always wanting to not lose touch with the reality, right? Like, I'm pretty sensitive to that. We've talked about that in several different episodes about my commitment to that. But not letting that catch me up and wash me away into hopelessness at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's one extreme of the spectrum, you can completely lose touch with reality and just be in. You can just make up whatever. Everything's going to be great in the end. Like, that's not grounded in any sort of reality in any way. Or you can completely lose yourself to the current reality, lose your vision for the future, you know what I mean, and go the complete opposite. I think it's a full spectrum of.
Yeah. I think I know what you mean, but I would definitely want to expand your extreme more, to be more extreme, than just everything will work out in the end.
Well, I mean, yeah. All I was really trying to say was like a completely something that's disconnected from any sort of reality, right? Which really, I think the way that we get there is just not thinking it through, not thinking about how this all works. You know what I mean? But just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call that extreme. To me, I just call that reality. Like, to me, it is. I don't think that the reality of things is the appearance of them right now. Like, the way things appear to be right now, to me, is not the reality. The reality is what they will be. And so for me, that it's actually living. It is living in reality, but reality isn't the appearance of the thing. It's if, like, the caterpillar and the butterfly thing, like, it's not the reality is that the caterpillar is destined to become a butterfly. It's, and even though it's not right now, it doesn't have that appearance. It has everything it needs to become the butterfly, and it will over time, given time. So, like, to me, that's kind of how I think about it. It's not like it's the appearance of things right now is not what it will be, and what it will be is what it will be forever. What it will be revealed to be is what it's always been, what it's always had the capacity to be. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of.
And to me, that's not. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. But to me, that's not denying the reality. That's seeing that's seeing the reality in light of the finished work.
Well, I think you really threw me off with your analogy of the caterpillar, because at first I thought I wasn't following you at all. Because what I was hearing, and I knew that this wasn't true, but this is what I was hearing was, well, I'm just going to live disconnected from reality, but call it reality. And I knew that's not what you meant, but that's what I was hearing.
And I knew that's what you were hearing. That's why I used the butterfly analogy.
But then when you use the butterfly analogy, it's like, well, that's kind of what I'm trying to say too, is like all of those The caterpillar isn't a butterfly at the time it's a caterpillar, but the potential is there, and there is a process that it is understood that into where it becomes the butterfly. You know what I mean? So that is the reality of that caterpillar butterfly is that it's a caterpillar now, but it's headed towards becoming a butterfly, right? Like, but that is the reality of the situation. So that, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it just threw me off because you were going one direction or I mean, you were going the same direction the whole time, but my interpretation of where you were going got thrown for a loop.
Yeah, maybe to put it more succinctly, like I don't mean that the caterpillar is not a caterpillar.
Right.
I mean that the caterpillar is a butterfly, given its DNA, given who it is and given what it is and what it will become. You know, through that process that is natural to its being.
Yes. Its potential.
Right.
From the beginning, its potential has been to be a butterfly.
Yeah. And so to me, it's not living in non-reality for the caterpillar to think one day I'll be a butterfly.
Right.
To me, that's not living outside of reality. And like that is actually that's the greater reality. That's the ultimate reality, because that's where it's headed. That's where it will be.
Right.
What it is right now is not what it will be. So the ultimate reality for the caterpillar is the butterflyness. You know.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to say.
And that makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me.
It may be the first time you've actually understood what I've been trying to say forever about the whole, because to you it just sounds like I'm saying we don't live in reality.
Well, reality is a difficult thing to have even a conversation about, because in one hand, well, it's multi-layered. On one hand, you have to acknowledge that our entire existence is based around everything that we call reality is simply our perception of reality. Like, we don't know what time is. We only have a perception of time. We don't know. I mean, we talked about this off air last week, but even the things that we see, we say, I see Sean and he's wearing a green shirt. In reality, what I actually see, like, there's light rays are bouncing off your shirt. They're coming into these portals in my head, which is sending signals to my brain, and then my brain is creating an image of you sitting there. Like, it's literally just a image that I'm seeing, you know? So in a sense, our reality is just a projection of our brain. And so, like, even having a conversation about reality is kind of difficult, you know?
But what is that reality generated from? The reality that's in our brain.
What's the question?
So I was trying to think about your analogy of like the light, right? Well, like where does the light come from? Like, what is the light?
Right.
In that.
Well, in this scenario, it's these lights that we have set up.
Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, kind of going back to the light analogy from before, like the way that you're able to see and perceive
right
anything that's real right now is because of the light.
Right.
So like that light, it's the same analogy. It's the light of the future, that light of the finished work,
right,
of what will be. The butterfly is the light that is reflecting off of everything and creating the reality for here and now, and how we perceive the here and now.
Yeah.
But if you're seeing through a glass dimly, then you may misperceive. You may think, I'm just a freaking caterpillar. And, you know.
That's why I think that this whole discussion is interesting to me, as far as the balancing act between looking forward with hopefulness, but also living in the present and being fully present in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because I understand 100% what you're saying, and I would agree. That, to me, is the perfect answer to the question that I asked, which is, how do you stay hopeful towards the future while not becoming disconnected from reality. And it's essentially what you're saying there is like, I have the foresight, or if you want to use the analogy of the light, but just to explain it in sort of more common terms, it's just the foresight. I can see where we're at, and I can see the goalpost at the end. I can see the finish line, and I know how we're going to get there. Like, I might not know all the details, all the twists and turns of how we're going to get there, but I know where we're finishing, and I can see it. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I think that that's how you stay hopeful despite the darkness that we may be experiencing present. It might feel hopeless at times, but if you have that, as you said, the light shining, back, that's how you can see that. That's how you can have the foresight to see the finish line, to see the end goal or the finished product or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
yeah,
makes good sense. Look at you coming in there with some good sense. Who is this guy?
Am I normally full of nonsense?
Yeah, you're normally full of something, all right, but no. I think that we answered most of these.
You know what?
What?
Whenever you sent these, I saw your initial set of questions and didn't even see the second set. So all of these questions you're asking me are not ones that I thought about at all today.
Oh, okay.
I only thought about the ones that were.
We already kind of answered a lot of the first set, right? So, because I asked you, is faith something we possess like a gift, or is it something that we cultivate through practice? And you've already talked about that quite a bit. Like, you think that faith is a gift, is the language that you used, but also that it's something that has to be cultivated. Perhaps the way that you framed it, cultivate wouldn't really be the proper word, because cultivate implies that you have to work towards growing it. And from the way you framed it, there's no growth to occur. It's more of an uncovering.
Yeah.
It's
more the treasure hidden in the field analogy.
I don't know what I think about that. I mean, I don't mean that in a conflicting way. Like, I'm not like, oh, I think you're foolish. No, I just mean I don't know what I believe about that. Like, I understand the biblical language, behind the language of Scripture, as you said, behind the whole faith as a gift thing. I just don't know what I think about that. But that's probably because I haven't spent a whole heck of a lot of time thinking about it. Just to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think that there's certain things like the image of God, right? Like, there's just certain things that are inherent to all human beings that, we are just created with certain things.
Right.
And I think faith is just one of those things, just like the image of God. Like, we're created in the image of God, we're created with faith.
Maybe. I don't know. See, I've sort of when I was thinking through this for this topic, I was viewing it more of to answer the other, like, I was looking at it as more something that we cultivate. Sort of like what I was talking about, having faith in the way of Jesus, or the path, right? Like, I think that I was looking at it as something that, like, you cultivate through actually living it, and you grow you see the fruit, you experience the fruit. You have those experiences, kind of like what you were framing. That's what ultimately solidifies your faith, is those experiences that you've had that you can't explain, any other way. And, like, from that perspective, I think that faith is something that we cultivate. Like, that's something that you put into action, and it cultivates more. Now, to the way you started the conversation, what is that initial action? Maybe it's faith. I don't know.
Yeah, rather than the language of cultivate, I guess I would just say, like, dig up. Like, there's still there's still like effort on your part to uncover it. Like, there is a practicing of your faith that uncovers more of it.
Right.
In that sense.
See, I don't know that I think I would prefer cultivate. I actually do think there's a growing, but I don't know that it matters, to be honest. Maybe it matters.
I mean, maybe.
We always talk about thinking downstream about stuff, the implications, and I just haven't had the time to think about the downstream implications of cultivate versus uncover faith. Maybe there are some, but initially I don't know that it matters really.
Well, where it matters for me is because of honestly, my whole the whole framework. It fits better into my whole framework, because this is all again, the caterpillar has everything it needs from the beginning to become the butterfly. Like, it doesn't have to like muster up the stuff, but it already has those things in it, the necessary elements to become the butterfly. And so, like, I just, that's kind of how I view this whole project, is like, all things are from him, for him, and to him. Kind of how Augustine put it. This may not be exactly right, but he has made us for himself, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in him. Like, he has made us for himself. Like, he has made us to be in union with him. We were created always to bear God's image in this world and to be united with God in Christ. Like, that was the plan from the beginning. And we have everything that we need to become what he has made us to be, which includes our faith. So, like, it just, to me, it fits into the framework way better to say that this thing is just something that is already in you, that's always been in you, that always will be in you, that is just created, that is like you were created with, and it's just a matter of uncovering, or even just like moving into that, filling that space, or like moving into who you are, your calling, little by little, moving more and more into that, which I don't really see that as, I guess you could see it as a growing process, like a child grows into an adult kind of thing, like a maturing. I guess you could see it in that sense. Oh, maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a very individual thing, right? Because I know that what you were explaining there was it matters in your framework, but like for somebody that doesn't have your framework, maybe it doesn't matter as much. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I don't know.
And maybe it doesn't actually matter as much as, within my own framework, as maybe I would think.
I think I understand everything that you're saying. I think where it gets difficult for me, and I don't even know that I have a good answer about this either way, but I think about people that like just don't have faith. They don't believe. They're non-believers. They're atheists or whatever. And especially a lot of times it's people that came from Christianity or other religions and have lost. I mean, even I have lost faith to a certain degree in certain aspects of my religion, that I inherited and was a part of. And so I think that is it's a difficult question to ponder on this topic. You know what I mean? Because like if those people already have faith, all they had to do was uncover it, but it was uncovered and now it's covered. And a lot of times, at least from my experience, a lot of that what we would call loss of faith occurs not from a desire to. It was, in my personal experience, it was from wanting more. It was wanting to dig deeper into it. It was wanting more and more knowledge and more. You know what I mean? It was through my own studies of that stuff that sort of prompted that loss of faith. And I think that's what a lot of people would share that sentiment. That it's not a. So I think that's a difficult thing to hold in tension with the idea that we all have faith and that all you have to do is uncover it. Like, and I don't mean to say all you have to do is uncover it as if that's an easy thing to do. I don't want to make light of it, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. And I don't really have a great answer for that. That's something that I do struggle with. Where my mind went with it, honestly, was the seed scattered, and like some are on this ground, the rocky ground, some are, and the enemy can come and snatch those things away. Like, I don't know. I think there's something to that. I don't know exactly how to explain that. I think there can be a sense in which you have uncovered something and then it gets covered back up. Like, I don't really. Well, it's kind of, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to talk about, especially, because I can only speak from my own personal experiences, right? And like I think that while I hear a lot of the things that you're saying there and understand like the concepts behind it, I think that as someone who's kind of lived through a couple of different faith crises myself, that that would be sort of a hard pill for me to accept, just because I know, like what I said, that a lot of what led me to where I'm at was my yearning to learn more, to go deeper, to draw closer to God. You know what I mean? So like the fact that's what led me to covering up or losing those aspects of my faith is kind of a difficult one for me to swallow. You know what I mean? Like even the example of the seed is still kind of a difficult, because like I would argue that my heart was even more cultivated to receive. I was hungry to receive the good seed. You know what I mean? And like I think most people would agree with, who've experienced similar things, would agree with that. But I understand what you're saying also, conceptually.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make any sort of judgments
Right.
or anything. I'm just kind of like talking about the concept itself, not like you or any one individual.
Right.
But I do think that I do think it's actually really hard for us to know our own motives. I think it's harder for us to know our own motives than we realize. I think that there can be reasons that we aren't even aware of. Like I know from my own experience, I've had moments of like clarity where I've thought like I thought that this was motivating me to do this at this time, but actually I feel like I had another motive behind this. You know what I mean? Like I think it's hard for us to always know what our motives are for doing the things that we do, but even with the best motives, even with the best of intentions, I do think that it's possible that we go out looking and you just get lost. You can just get lost in the looking, even if you have good intentions. But I think that, he's a good shepherd that goes out and finds the lost and puts them on his shoulders, carries them home. So it's not, to me, it's not, it doesn't cause me any anxiety. I mean, it does and it doesn't, actually. But like, especially like people that would be like atheists. Like I'm thinking of folks like, the Matt Dillahunties and the Alex O'Connors of the world. Like, even though I think that, I'm a Christian universalist, I think eventually they'll figure it out. But, I don't know why it seems to be that faith is covered or not there right now. I don't have a good answer for that. But I do believe that God is good, that God is a generous giver and gives to all. And I just don't know. I think I don't know. I guess I've already said the things. I don't want to repeat all of it.
Yeah. That's the reason why this conversation to me is interesting, is because it is a difficult thing. It's hard to put into words. It's hard to conceptualize, right? Like it's hard, kind of like what we just said. It's easy to just conceptualize it, but it's different when you're talking about your own experience. You know what I mean? Or like, it's easy to talk about concepts when we disconnect it from people, but when realizing that these are real people with real experiences kind of changes the way that we experience those concepts. And so it's a difficult conversation to have, like on even to have, like, to be honest about it. Like when I was hearing you talk about it, on one hand, I understood the concepts that you were saying. It was like, yeah, I understand your perspective and where this is coming from. But then also the fleshly side of me was a little bit like, we mean I don't know my motives? Like,
I mean, I think that's true of all of us.
No, I mean, and that's what I'm saying is like, I understand that conceptually. I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I do think it is hard to know for sure what our motives are and all. Like, intellectually, I know that, but just in that scenario, in that situation, it's, that's why I said it the way I did. Like, the fleshly side of me, the egoic part of me was like, STFU, man. Shut the
F up. You, man.
But no, I mean, no, I understand like the concepts behind it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I wasn't
I know.
It wasn't a judgment against you specifically or any one individual. It was just
right. Well, but that's what I mean about saying like it's easier to talk about concepts until we attach them to people, right? Because it's easy. Like you weren't talking about me directly, but you were because I fit the bill for what we were talking about. Like it's not you can't just talk about concepts. These are human beings. These are lives and experiences. You know what I mean? So like.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to downplay anyone's experiences or
right.
their situation. I'm just trying to just be kind of, I guess, just be honest about the way that I see that particular issue. And it's not just like our motives. I think that like it's hard for us to know ourselves.
Yeah.
Just generally, I think it's hard to know ourselves. I think it's hard to know why certain like I don't know why things resonate with me in a different way than they do you. I don't know why that is. I don't know what drives you to see things this way and what drives me to see them a different way. I don't know. I can't
right.
explain even why I do, much less how you do, or why you do the things that you do.
Nobody knows the things that I do, not even me.
But see, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. So it to me, it's not. I guess what I was all that I was really trying to say was that to me, it's not as simple as saying, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and it's not working.
Yeah.
Even though I understand that frustration, I don't know that it's as simple as all that. I think there's other things to consider. And yet I don't know. I'm not saying that I have it figured out, but
I mean, you did start the whole diatribe with, I don't really know.
right.
So, yeah. Who does, right? Who does know?
Yeah. Only the Lord.
The Lord.
Unless you don't think the Lord's all knowing.
I'm sure. I'm sure there are some. I would presume if there is an Almighty God, they would have to know all. Seems reasonable.
I like to picture God knowing all.
Hey, who am I to bring you off that? Who am I?
I like to picture my Jesus.
Front row at a Leonard Skinner concert.
Yeah, can't remember what he said. Yeah.
Faith.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. You got to have the faith, man.
There was there other questions that we didn't get to that you wanted to talk about, or nay?
I think that we kind of answered them all. At least in a indirect. We didn't answer. So, is faith more of an intellectual assent or existential trust? We didn't answer that one.
We didn't do faith and certainty either.
Oh yeah, it's true. So I'm actually more interested in that one. What is the relationship between faith and certainty? Because I think a lot of people would sort of intertwine those two, use them as synonyms, right? They're one and the same. They are. Yeah, just the same, one and the same. I don't know. I was trying to think of another word to use there. My brain locked up like a 98 Windows PC. That.
Yeah. I would think that they are
faith and certainty.
I would think that faith and certainty are I don't know. I was going to say opposites.
I mean, I've always heard that quote, and I think it's an Anne Lamott quote, but I don't know who said it. But I've always heard that quote that says that doubt isn't the opposite of faith, but certainty is. Certainty is the opposite of faith, because if you're certain about something, you don't have faith in it. Faith is literally the things that you're not certain about, that you believe it's going to come to pass when you lack the certainty that it will. So that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that faith is an absence of doubt. I will say that. I don't think that faith cancels out doubt. I think faith is trusting in the midst of doubt. It's a deeper. I think faith is well, actually, to tie it to, let's just tie both of the questions in together. The first question was, is faith more of an intellectual assent or existential trust? And I think it's an existential trust more than anything. I think maybe it's an existential trust that can lead more into that can lead you into actual intellectual assent. But I think it's first and foremost existential trust. And that trust, it is something that just is in you in spite of your doubts. It's the thing that rises up in you that says, in spite of my doubts, I believe this, I trust this. I have a sense of peace and security about this, regardless of my doubts. And that comes from within you. Like, it doesn't come, to me, that's not something that comes from like having all the right information. It's something that's deeper than that. It's something that's inside of you. I think it's coming from the Christ in you. I think it's coming from that same place, the same place that I've been naming this entire episode.
Yeah.
That your life is hidden in Christ, and Christ is your life. And caterpillar that has all the stuff in it already, like, that is where it's that thing in you that says, I can't see my butterflyness yet, but I know in spite of that. And that knowing is a faith statement. It's not a certainty statement. It's not, when I say I know, it's not that I am saying like I have intellectually, I just know in the same way that I know that 2 + 2 = 4. I know that this is the truth. No,
that was the exact example that was going through my mind.
Right.
It's
a deeper knowing than that. Actually, I think that there's a deeper knowing than that intellectual knowing, and that is what I think you were getting at with the existential trust in the question.
Yeah,
and that's really what I think faith is, and that's where I think that is where I think the difference is between that and certainty. It's not 2 + 2 = 4 intellectual assent certainty. It is existential trust that I don't understand what's going on. I don't know how this is all going to work out, but I believe and I trust that God is good and it's all going to work out.
Yeah, that's why I really prefer the word. I would contrast the word certainty with trust, because to me that's the big difference. Is faith, and actually that's one of the words I wrote in my notes here that I didn't even use, which is trust. Like, to me, that's where I would place faith and trust as interchangeable. But trust isn't the same thing as certainty. You don't have to trust something that I don't have to just trust that this time I add 2 + 2 and it's going to equal 4. I'm certain of that. I know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, those are two different things. But that faith is trust that in spite of my uncertainty, I trust that this is going to work out. You know, to go back to the car example, I don't know that the next time I go out there and turn my ignition, it's going to start, but I trust it will.
Right.
I don't know that when I come up to the stoplight down here in Calhoun, when I hit my brakes, that I'm going to stop and not barrel into the red light and cause an accident, but I trust it will. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what happens every other time I've done it. I trust that it will happen. You know, that's not the same thing as being certain. But I do think that there is a way of conflating the two. Probably when we're being harder on ourselves, actually. Right, when you lack a little bit of that confidence, a little bit of that trust, you're not certain enough. It's easy to think of yourself as faithless or lacking in faith. You know.
Yeah. Good thing is, Well, I don't think that your faith is ultimately what matters. I had to think for a minute before I said that, because that's going to be, I said at the beginning that I'm going to have takes that no one likes. That's probably one of them. I think
some people like that take.
I think that ultimately what matters is his faith and his faithfulness. Back to the we did the episode a while back on the Pistis Christou, like whether is it your faith or is it his faith, his faithfulness? I think
faith in Christ or faith of Christ.
Yeah. And I think it's the faith of Christ. I think it's his faithfulness, his faith. It's his lived life. It's his yes. It's his not my will, but your will be done. It's his. All of that is my inheritance. So that is his prayer. It will be answered. The prayer that he prayed to the Father, that we would be one as he and the Father are one. Like that is that's what matters. That he has done it. It is finished. It's his faith that matters more than mine. My faith isn't a gift. Like in Romans 11, where towards the end, I think it's maybe 36. Who has known the mind of God? It says, who has given him a gift to receive gifts in return? The implication being no one. Like the way it's worded there, the implication is that no one has given God a gift to receive one in return. That includes your faith. Your faith is a gift to you from God. It's not a gift that you give to God and he gives you good stuff for it. It's a gift that he gives to you. And the only thing that you have to do is trust that his faith and his faithfulness are enough. So
I'm not laughing at Sean's response. It was a good response. I'm laughing because my dog, if you didn't hear it in the background, my dog just started barking like crazy. I think my wife and son are home now.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all good stuff.
I'm a little offended at how surprised you are that I have all this good stuff to say tonight.
In what way was I surprised then? I just didn't have anything else to add to it. I mean, it was good. It was so good. I had nothing else to add.
You just seemed a little bit surprised by it.
I wasn't surprised by it one bit. That's actually, I assumed that you were going to talk about that at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it would not be a appropriate episode on faith if we didn't at least talk about the faith of Christ versus faith in Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, we really didn't talk about Hebrews as much as I thought we would.
Yeah, we didn't. Well, because I wasn't sure. So the funny thing is, we haven't done a topical episode like this in a while. We've just sort of been freestyling, and we kind of was like, hey, maybe we should get back on topics. And then we got to it and wasn't sure how to handle it, it seemed like, because we haven't done it in so long. So we didn't really have an outline other than those questions that I, had posed, and that sort of guided the conversation more than us just having naturally the conversation. Because I assumed if we were just sitting down having a conversation about faith that perhaps Hebrews would have come up. The only reason why I was thinking about it was because of the contrast between Hebrews 11:1 and the Buddhist concept of saddha, right? Like those two things contrasting against each other, and so I knew that Hebrews would come up just in the Hebrews 11:1 frame.
Yeah.
Even though there is an entire chapter in there about faith.
Right. I actually was curious. I was going to try and pull it up real quick and see. I wanted to see what it says about David.
David?
Mm-hmm. David.
I don't really know. While you're looking that up before we move on to it, the reason, another reason why I just didn't have anything to add to what you said, I just don't know. Like, I don't know for me to say our faith doesn't matter. In a sense, I don't know that makes any sense from my personal, the personal framework that I currently hold, which is sort of indicated in, like, if we don't get it done, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? That sort of implies that, I think that our faith would be at least an ingredient in that. But from your framework that you're working out of, I agree 100%. It makes sense. It's consistent with your framework, I would say.
Yeah. Didn't find anything that I was looking for.
Oh, okay.
I had a thought about what it says about David in Hebrews, but actually when I went and read it, I was like, oh, well, that's just not at all what it says.
Yeah.
So, you know.
You'll have the old just made it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I just kind of made that up.
You'll have that from time to time. There's a lot of stuff in that book.
There is a lot of stuffs in there.
A lot of stuff to retain. I've noticed a lot of times I'll totally I don't want to say I'll totally forget something, but I'll have read it. I've read the Bible cover to cover a few different times. So I know everything that's in there. Like, I don't know everything that's in there, but I've read everything that's in there at some point. But so much of it you just don't even think about. Like, you just kind of read through it until you read it again and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that was in there.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, I don't know everything in there. I probably know very little of what's in there comparatively to what's actually in there. But
right.
Yeah, faith.
I have faith that I'm going to fall asleep as soon as I get
Maybe
home. As soon as my head hits the pillow.
What do you think about faith as far as like having faith in because everything that you mentioned that you had faith in was all sort of broad, made sense, which is good, but sort of broad as far as like the claims. But what about faith in individual things like healing? Like faith that I'm sick, but I'm going to pray and it's going to be healed. Like, what is that a healthy faith? Is that misguided faith? What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like that's an entire other episode.
Oh, okay. Well, just leave it for next week then.
But I mean,
I really didn't have it pre-planned. It just came to my mind.
Yeah, I really do think that the topic of healing is something that would open up a whole other can of worms. So I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking about it at least from the perspective of some of those comments that we'd received on one of our recent episodes, right? Where we had mentioned something about...
I think they're all Russian bots. I don't think they're real people.
Well, that's possible, but one of them, if it was a Russian bot, then it came from it was a legitimate question, or not even a question, but it was a kind of a comment, basically, because I had mentioned something about the faith healings and like, because I believe in placebo effect, like I'm not trying to crush somebody's faith in those kind of things, and their whole take on that was sort of like that's not a good excuse for like allowing things like that to go on, because that actually destroys faith, because it doesn't always work like at some point. And to be fair, that sort of kind of happened to me to a certain extent, like I'll so I mean, I was not necessarily looking for like the entirety of the topic of like, let's go through the topic of faith. Is that consistent with the nature of God and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm just talking about simply in the faith in it. Is that a good thing? Which still may be its own episode.
Yeah. I mean, is it, if we just narrow it to that specific question, is it a good thing to have that faith? I think it's a good thing to have faith, period. No matter, I guess, well, there may be instances in which that's not a good thing. But I think that, I think that it's a good thing to have faith. I think it's a better thing to have faith for other people, actually. Like, I guess what I'm thinking of, like specific examples, is like where, like you do have examples of like where like Jesus says to the woman that had the issue of blood, like he says, your faith has made you whole. Right. But more often than not, it seems that Jesus just heals people out of compassion. Like he was moved with compassion and everyone that came to him was healed. Like more often than not, whenever Jesus, like there's those few examples of individuals that have faith, and all of those individuals are people that like you wouldn't have been expected to be heroes of faith,
right?
For for that time, that culture, the centurion,
Blind lepers,
the Syrophoenician woman,
fella at the pool of Bethesda.
Yeah. But like actually, in some of those cases, it wasn't even their faith necessarily. Like, Jesus just healed them out of compassion. But I do think that what made me think about saying it, maybe it's more important that you have faith for other people's healing than your own, is the example of the friends that lowered the paralytic through the roof,
right,
for Jesus to heal. Like in that instance, it was the friend's faith, that mattered.
I mean, it's kind of hard to frame where my mind's at with it, because on one hand, what I'm thinking is, it's a completely different conversation than does God heal people or can you be healed or whatever. Like, that is a topic all on its own. But what I'm thinking about is like the people that have had faith, even if it was not for themselves, but that God is going to heal this. I still believe in a God that heals. He's going to heal this person. And then that person dies. Like, is it a good thing to have that kind of faith that says, no, I believe in the God that heals. He's going to heal this person, in spite of the fact that sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes those people die. Now, that's caveating that I know, like, me and you've talked about before about like a future healing or made wholeness or whatever. But I'm talking about the effects on people's faith here and now.
Can that affect your faith here and now? Absolutely, it can.
And that's where really what I was getting at with the is it a good thing? Like, and it really even ties back into the question of certainty, right? Because you're saying, I know God's going to heal this person, but then he doesn't, or it isn't made manifest yet.
Yeah. Well, I do think in that sense, certainty, I don't know that certainty is, in that sense, I don't know if certainty is ever a good thing. Certainty. But faith is always a good thing, I think. And so, because we've already sketched out those differences, I would say that it is a good thing to have faith for healing.
I'm really conflicted on it. I really am. Because I hear you, and I think so too. But I also think that we use the word trust in synonymous with faith, and trust is something that is earned. It's something that's, trust is like, if you trusted me to do something and I repeatedly didn't follow through and do the thing, you would lose your trust in me. You know what I mean? You would lose your confidence that I'm going to do the thing that I told you I would do.
Right, but even deeper than the individual thing is your character. If I trust your character, then I can trust your action. So like, even the individual action of like healing this person, it's more a trust in God's character than a trust that this particular situation is going to work out the way I want it to. It's a trust in God's character that is the deeper trust, I think, from my perspective. The faith is in God's character, and I know that he is good, and I know that everything he does is good and for our good. And even in those situations, I know that God, my faith tells me that I know that God is going to, that person is going to be healed. They are already healed, whether we see that happen here and now or not. But I think to say that just because it does, I don't see it here and now. To me, again, going back to the butterfly analogy, it's looking at the caterpillar and saying, look, it's just a freaking caterpillar. Well, but from my perspective, it's not just a caterpillar. Like the saying, like, well, we prayed and it died and this person died, so it didn't work, is to look at a caterpillar and say, well, it's not a butterfly. Well, it will be. That's what it is going to be. I understand
Yeah.
the problem. I understand how it definitely can shake your faith, but I don't think that ultimately I don't think that it should. I understand why it does, but I don't think that it should.
It definitely does for me. I mean, it's been a huge factor for me, actually, to be honest. I mean, yeah, just being honest about it. It's been a huge thing for me. It's factored huge into it.
And I know it's a big thing for you. That's why I figured it would open up a can of worms if we started talking about it.
Oh no, I mean, because I'm not really interested in. I mean, we know where each other stand on. I'm not super interested in debating it so much. It's just
That's not what I meant. I just meant like talk about it.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just interested to hear how you handle that tension, right? Because, or at least, I mean, I think you would at least acknowledge there's a tension there. It sounds like you do acknowledge the tension of that. I mean, it goes back to some of the things that we'd already talked about with the whole grounded in reality thing, right? Because that is a lot of what I hear. Like, to me, I hear what you're saying about the butterfly thing, and to me, it's just not even it's not a 1-for-1 comparison. Those aren't the same things. Like, we literally we were told that this person's going to be healed. We were told to pray for this person and they're going to be healed, and then they weren't, and now they're dead. Like, it is what it is. You know, I don't know.
I mean, I think it still applies because all of those things that you're saying are the equivalent of saying, I was told this is going to be a butterfly, but it's not. Like, to me, it is it may not be there are no perfect analogies,
Right.
but I think that it's 1-for-1-ish enough to work in that situation. But
yeah, I don't know. I think, and it's just probably just a personal thing for me. Like, that's where I really lose the tension of that whole grounded in reality thing, right? To me, that's just, it's, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. Now I know that it's not going to make any sense, but if I do try to say it, but that is where that tension lies for me. That's where, to me, it just loses the sense of to reality for me, personally, and it's where we are just, I don't know. I don't know how else to better say it, right? Like, it's just something that I wrestle with, and that's probably why I struggle to put words to it, actually, because it's an active struggle. But
well, we're getting at what is a real disagreement. We've had a lot of agreement tonight.
yeah,
We're getting at what is actually a real disagreement here, which is that whenever we talk about the future and the light of the future, I mean we mean different things by that. I think.
yeah, probably.
Which is
Surely.
which is why this is a disagreement now, I think. Because for me, the light that we live in the future tells me I pray with faith for this person to be healed because I know that they will be.
You know what? Maybe a good way to look at the difference in perspective or paradigm is to say, perhaps, maybe you'll disagree with me, but let's just flesh it out a little bit. Perhaps you're looking at it from your perspective of the finish line towards the now, and I'm looking at it from the now towards the finish line.
Yeah. Well, that was the entire analogy. Like my point was that the light is in the future shining back on us now.
Right.
It's a this direction thing, not a that direction thing.
Which really is something that we've talked about in several episodes, actually, when we've talked about sort of grounding things in reality. That really is sort of probably the better way that it's only taken us 900 episodes to get there. Yeah, and it is. I don't know why that is. I don't know, because again, to me, this is where I'll struggle to find words for it, but it is a sort of, this is why I'm struggling to find words for it, is because the word that comes to mind is unfalsifiability of it, but I don't know that I really want to use that word. I don't really like that word, but that's sort of where my mind goes, because it's not rooted in our present experience. It's just rooted in what you think the end goal is, or the end vision, or whatever. projected backwards, that it's not even necessarily connected to any sort of reality. You know what I mean? To whereas, like, if you're starting in present reality, projecting forward, you're acknowledging where we're at as a real and present reality, working towards that future. I don't know. Probably doesn't make any sense, but
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I don't think that I agree though, because I mean, to me, it's not. I think this. It's the faith thing, and faith isn't the same as intellectual assent.
And that would be probably a better way to frame it. Is you have faith, but yeah,
There's something in me that knows that this is all going to be all right. I don't know what that is other than the faith.
You got a bigger measure than I did. That's what it was.
But like, I honestly don't know with your conception. I actually don't know how for me personally, I don't know how I would have any hope in that scenario. Different strokes for different folks, I suppose. But I don't.
Well, I mean, that's kind of been the impetus of this whole episode. That's what we've been talking about. Because ultimately I don't have the same kind of hope as you. Because I don't have that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of frustrated, not with you or the conversation. I'm frustrated with myself because I don't have a better way of framing it to make it make sense how it makes sense. You know how, like, when something makes good sense in your mind, but you have no way to communicate it. And that's where I feel like I'm at with this topic right now, which isn't real conducive for podcasting.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I think I understood what you were saying the last time you...
I still didn't feel like I did a good job of sort of communicating it, but maybe you probably did understand it. I don't know. I have to remember that me and you have had so many conversations. I don't really have to say what I mean for you to really understand, but the people watching don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, like, yeah, we just literally do see that completely opposite is the thing. And it goes back to, I mean, we said it earlier, but like the reality of the thing is like, it seems to me that the reality for you is our experience right here and now, whatever we can see and whatever the appearance of the thing is now is how I put it earlier.
Yeah.
Like that is the reality for you. Whereas for me, the reality is what all of this will be when all things are made new. And so even though I can't see it, like, I mean, that's been the whole conversation because that leads into the caterpillar analogy again. Like, it's living in light of that future. It's living in light of that finished work that enlightens your path here and now to work towards that.
Which goes all the way back to the full circle of the conversation, right? Where I started out with the whole thing about different kinds of faith, or even if it's different kind of different things, right? Because like I said, what is my faith in? It's that, the living this path leads to wholeness or fulfillment. It really doesn't have anything to do with metaphysics or whether I'm going to be supernaturally healed or naturally healed, for that matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's a completely different thing. It's a faith in a different thing, perhaps even a different kind of faith altogether. Maybe.
That brings up a lot more questions for me, but we've been going for over 2 hours, so I don't know if we want to.
If I get one more freaking telemarketer calling me,
You getting spammed.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Just what I want to ask. I want to leave the audience with a teaser, but I want to go ahead and pose the question to you, and we can talk about it at some point. And I'm saying all this to stall because I forgot what the question was. What you said there at the end brought up another question. Oh, my question was, what is wholeness and sozo in your framework then? If it's not something, yeah, we can just leave it at that for now.
sounds like we got a topic for next week.
Yeah.
Salvation, sozo, wholeness.
Right.
unless you don't want to, but you're the one that posed the question. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely curious on in your framework on, because you said it's not about like supernatural and healings and all this stuff. So it does make me wonder what do you actually conceive of Sozo being with this? Like, if we're going to say it's about walking this path, then what does Sozo actually look like on that framework, and what does it look like for hope of the future?
right. I mean, you want me to answer it now?
No.
I can. I mean, I can give you like a quick, as quick as I can, if you would like. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and then we can leave it at that.
Okay.
But for me, I guess probably the most simple and concise answer is life and life more abundant, right? Like to me, that's like asking, can a paraplegic live a fulfilled whole life without walking again? Well, I think so. Yeah. Like I don't think it's about physical healing. I think it's the exact opposite. It's realizing that your wholeness isn't tied to your
Right. That's not really where I was going with it in my mind when I posed the question. I was thinking more like, because you said supernatural, which would be like beyond the natural.
right.
So like,
Well, I mean, I said supernatural, but then I also even added natural at the end. Like to me, it's not about healing at all, really physically. It's about the healing of the whole person.
okay.
I don't even know if healing is the right word because it seems like we're crossing streams there by using that word. I would just leave it at for me. Sozo is life and life more abundant. I like that one.
Okay. I keep wanting to ask more questions, but honestly, I'm still in overtime, and I would like to wrap it up. We've been going for over 2 hours,
There you go.
so we'll just have to put a pin in it. Come back to it.
Put that in your peace pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, all that stuffs. Okay, bye.